Comparison of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita with Indian Penal Code. Offences related to elections. Learning outcomes. At the end of the session, the participants will be able to compare different sections of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 with Indian Penal Code 1860 related to election. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 was enacted on December 25, 2023, repealing and replacing the Indian Penal Code 1860 as the new penal code of the country. 1st of July 2024 is the effective date for the enforcement of the provisions of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. Now we will see offences directly linked to an election. Definition of public servant related to an election was described in Chapter 2, Section 21.11 of IPC. Now it is described in Chapter 1, Section 2, Subsection 28J of BNS. Offences related to elections were described in Chapter 9A of IPC. Now it is described in Chapter 9 of BNS. Definition of candidate and electoral right was described in Section 171A of IPC. Now it is described in Section 169 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Bribery was described in Section 171B of IPC. Now it is described in Section 170 of BNS. Undue influence at the elections was described in Section 171C of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 171 of BNS. Personation at elections was described in Section 171D of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 172 of BNS. Punishment for bribery in Section 171E of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 173 of BNS. Punishment for undue influence or personation at an election was described in Section 171F of IPC. Now it is described in Section 174 of BNS. False statement in connection with an election. It was described in Section 171G of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 175 of BNS. Illegal payments in connection with an election was described in Section 171H of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 176 of BNS. Failure to keep election accounts was mentioned in Section 171I of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 177 of BNS. Now we will see offences indirectly linked to an election. Voluntary causing hurt or grievous hurt to deter public servant from his duty was described in Section 321 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 121 of BNS. Promoting enmity between different groups or grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc., and doing acts prejudicial to maintenance of harmony was described in Section 153A of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 196 of BNS. Furnishing false statement was described in Section 177 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 212 of BNS. Refusing oath or affirmation when duly required by the public servant to make it was described in Section 178 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 213 of BNS. Refusing to answer public servant authorized to question was described in Section 179 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 214 of BNS. Refusing to sign a statement was described in Section 180 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 215 of BNS. False statement on oath or affirmation to public servant or person authorized to administer an oath or affirmation was described in Section 181 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 216 of BNS. False information with intent to cause public servant to use his lawful power to injury of another person was described in Section 182 of IPC. Now it is mentioned in Section 217 of BNS. Intentional insult with intent to provoke breach of peace was described in section 504 of IPC, not is mentioned in section 352 of BNS. Statements conducing to public mischief were described in section 505 of IPC, not is mentioned in section 353 of BNS. In this educational video, we have compared different sections of BNS, that is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, with Indian Penal Code related to elections. If you have any doubt or want any clarification, then you can contact through the mail as shown on the screen. For other videos on rules and regulation, you can visit the web address as shown. Thank you.